raise my, like, I can't do that right now, but when I raise my arm, it's like, okay, that thing is gone. So once this heals, I'll be okay. Let's all stand. I'm just like sitting here smoking cigarettes. Are we already on? Oh, great. That was my opening things. I was not smoking cigarettes. That was a figure of speech. I was saying we were all talking, and it didn't occur to me it was 11 o'clock yet. I was answering Eddie's question, do I feel like it's healing? Yes. Yes, I do. One thing's for sure, though. I did that painting, which is fine. You know, it's great to open up new neuropaths. I'm definitely left-handed, though. You know what I mean? It's not like, it was such a reaffirmation of you are who you are. You can have other behavior, but you're wired a certain way. I mean, if I wrote with my right hand for the rest of my life, I'd still be left-handed. It's not writing with your left hand that makes you left-handed. It's how you're wired. But yes, and happy Left-Handers Day. I don't know why it's August 13th. Beth's left-handed. Are you left-handed? Alan is. It's a whole other. You know, they used to burn us at the stake, but fortunately now they have moved on to other minorities. So pretty much now. Well, yeah. Just can't catch a break. One time I was thinking, hello, viewers, I'll get to you in a moment. I was just writing down just certain things about my life, and I thought, man, I'm really a subset. You know what I mean? It's like with everything, like most people are this, but I'm this. Most people are this, but I'm, and it just kept getting smaller and smaller. It's like, I think there's only like 3 others of me anywhere. But anyway, actually, there's none like any of us. We're all completely unique. We enter this geographical location being made even more aware that we are in the presence of God. We are always in the presence of God. But there are times when we come together where 2 or more are gathered together in His name that something else happens. So we believe for that special and unique manifestation, something that is unprecedented, something that will be said today, something that will be felt today, something that will be experienced today, that will absolutely make a difference in someone's life, and in some butterfly effect way will change the world. Somehow, little incremental changes in our thinking today will have long-term effects on history. We do not believe that's a grandiose statement. We believe that's a reality. So, Spirit of God, for this time that we're together, you're in charge. We surrender to Spirit, and we embrace supernatural. We thank you for it in your name. Amen. Let's all stand and do the Lord's Prayer together, if we may, please. Our Father, who art in heaven, presence of divine love and light that lives within us and within all of life, hallowed be thy name. We invoke the powerful creative nature of all that is sacred and holy. Thy kingdom come. We embrace the healing essence that is the kingdom of heaven within us. Thy will be done. We accept our greatest good as we align with our divine nature, on earth as it is in heaven, knowing that the affairs of our lives reflect our evolving consciousness. Give us this day our daily bread. Each day we receive great blessings from within and throughout all the activities of our lives. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. We accept the divine nature of all things and all people, including ourselves, as we move away from judgment and toward greater awareness of divine presence. And lead us not into temptation. We shall be vigilant in expressing and experiencing the oneness with all life. But deliver us from evil as we are learning to live without fault-finding and suffering. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. For we accept the consciousness of divine and perfection with all its power and glory right here, right now, and forever. Amen. And so it is. Good. Excellent. Excellent. Give somebody a greeting, and then you may be seated. And thank you again so much for being here. And those of you that are logged on at home, we welcome you. And Rhonda has a different version of Tourette's syndrome. Just is what periodically she just calls out people's names for no reason. I think she was saying hello to you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope nobody mistakenly came here last Sunday looking for us, because we were on Tybee Island last week, and we're going to show you a little clip of that in a little bit that BJ put together. It was extraordinary. I never like to compare them. I never like to say one's the best one yet, because each one is unique, but I can't think of one that was any better. And it was very synchronistic. I wasn't even that sure about Tybee Island. I thought, we're probably going to do this one time, but it was very cool, and we'll do that again. Some of you stayed in Savannah. Some of you stayed on the island. Did y'all stay in Savannah? And had you been there before? Okay. It was cool though, wasn't it? It's like it's different from Jekyll and St. Simon's, but definitely very cool, and I'll say some more about that. Let me just give you a few announcements. In case you're interested in this, the man that Debbie's been with for several years, Shannon, he passed away, and his memorial service is next Saturday at 10 a.m. at the Movement Church. And it was sad, but it ended. I've talked to her about it, and it ended for him as well as it could. His sons came from Missouri and got him, which was the appropriate thing, and she was able to go out and see him one more time, which was good. So we're going to that Saturday, and then I don't know if y'all remember Mr. Marshall. Ken's on call this week, but they never got married. But I don't think you can call somebody a girlfriend when they're in their 80s. But his lady friend, Miss Darlene, really sweet lady, she passed away. So her service is at 3 in Eatonton. So we're please don't anybody else go this week, because we can't do any more funerals next Saturday. But just letting you know all about that. She was 90, and Ken got to go see her. She was sort of like a surrogate mother. We have laughed about this, because she said that just a couple of days before she passed, she said that Mr. Monty, who was Ken's dad, appeared to her. And so that's cool, because when you see loved ones, yeah. My question to Ken was like, how's that gonna work out with your mom? I'm not sure. I guess in heaven, everybody's way more laid back because I don't know how that works. For people that think they're going to be reunited with their spouse in eternity, I don't know. Your spouse may have somebody else. So I don't know. There's some mysteries we won't know till we get to the other side. But anyway, if you when you start seeing loved ones coming for you, it's you might want to get prepared for a journey. Many times they're coming to get you. But anyway, let me announce to you that we are doing an outreach this month. We're going to do it for the fires in Maui. We're going to give through the Red Cross there, the Hawaiian chapter. And I talked to some of y'all know Zach Keogh. I communicated with him. They live on Oahu. And he said where they are, they're unaffected by it. But he knows people in Maui, and it's unbelievable. Hey, y'all, come in. They that came in will receive the same reward as those that that worked all day long. Hey, y'all come in. Y'all are actually arriving right at 11:11. So I don't know. I don't know if y'all planned that. They've been standing outside going, "Wait for it, wait for it." Yeah, y'all come on in. The waters are troubled. People are coming in. um, anyway, what was I saying? Oh, about um, what's particularly serious about the situation in Hawaii is, when people, you can't compare natural disasters because they're all horrible. What makes it really bad for these people is they don't have any place to go. There's like when you have a tornado or hurricane, there's another neighborhood you can go to. They're sort of isolated there, and it's just they had no warning. People just sitting in their houses and flames. So, our little bit that we can do, matters, and so we will be giving to them this month. And I don't know how many of you looked at it, but I put together some pictures of all the places we've given to in 9 years, and when you add it all up, it's pretty significant. I mean, Metron's given more than a lot of big churches give to some ministries, but also, hey, how did your surgery go? I messaged you, but I thought you were out. All right. So he had his second cataract surgery today. So, Tuesday, yeah. So we're all of us are getting all kind of new parts, little by little. We've reimagined the scripture. All things shall be made new. Like we're doing it by one surgery at a time. I'm telling you, new parts. That's why my friend John and Melissa that drove down from Albany, New York, he just had 2 knees replaced. And I said, we've got to get a picture of you on your crutch and me in my sling, because we look like we've been in battle. I've just got to where now, because every elevator I'm on, people say, what happened to your arm? Now I just say bar fight, and they they back up from me a little bit. I'm like, word to the wise, don't mess with me, because I do not play. But anyway, we're giving to them, and it's one of my favorite things about Metron is we're able to continue to give. Also, we're planning meditation weekend number 20, and when we were in Tybee, I mentioned the possibility of going to Gatlinburg, but the more I thought about it, I thought, man, that time of year, Gatlinburg, I love it, but it's one big traffic jam. And it's fine if you're just there just with your family, but trying to coordinate a 30, 40, 50, 60 people, that would be a little challenging. So we had planned to do one in Ellijay. Ellijay is a beautiful, quaint little North Georgia town, kind of close to Blue Ridge, where we went a few years ago. And we had to, come on in. We had to cancel it because of the pandemic, but so I had Ellijay on the in my sights. So we are going to do, and there's no. Howie called me yesterday, and he said, "I just need to say this to you. We want to come to the next meditation weekend, but I can't do it the weekend that you're looking at." I said, "I know, and there's no perfect weekend for anybody. At some point, I just have to say, we're going to do it this weekend and do what you can." So it seems like the last several falls we've done last weekend of the month, and that seems to be, you kind of miss the peak crowds of people that are there to see the colors. So anyway, that is coming up, October 28th and 29th. Ellijay, it's not far from here. But it's a beautiful little town, especially in the fall. It's just gorgeous. We'll probably do some indoor stuff that time of year, but it will be wonderful. I'm going to show you this little clip that BJ put together, but this several things about this past weekend was really, really cool. I did not plan that we would be celebrating Metron's 9th anniversary on our 19th meditation weekend. The planets just kind of lined up that way. So I thought, well, that's really cool. I like, I like nines, and in the scripture, there's 9 gifts of the Spirit, 9 fruit of the Spirit, and there's a lot of, lot of cool energy on the number 9. And so Ken and I went down a day early, and I was scouting out places, and I'd only stayed at Tybee once years ago, and I wasn't familiar with it. So I found a spot that was, how those islands have a street that take as an access point to the beach, and there's little parking areas. I found one at 18th Street, and it was okay. It was like this could work. I could see this, but I told him, I said, I'm just going to drive down the street. If there's a 19th Street, this is going to be really, really cool. And we drove down the street, and there was, and it was perfect. It's actually what I would have picked out if it wasn't 19th Street. And just the fact that it was, I don't know, just I love little green lights from the universe like that. And we had, I said my friends drove down from Albany, New York. Y'all know Pam. She drove down from New Hampshire. People drove up from Florida. Ed came down from Tennessee. 80, who I only knew through Facebook, flew all the way in from Colorado. And she and her husband, not her husband, her friend, walked up on the beach. And as I'm looking at her, I thought, because I'd seen pictures of her, I thought, this is uncanny. I'm thinking, you look so much like this woman I'm friends with. Because she's super supportive, and pretty much anytime I do an 11:11, she'll always watch, and she writes a little review about it, and it really matters to her, and I love when people care that much. And she said, you were talking about it, and I thought, we're just going to come to it. And so they came, and she was adorable, and Jeanette's friend from. Yeah, 80 surprised me. That was great. I realized that was her. And also Angela's from Indiana. I think she flew down from there. Trying to think if anybody else came from out of state. But it was really cool. The meditation community is sort of nearly a different thing than the theater community here. And a lot of the people that come to all of these have never been to Metron. So I kind of feel like it's separate but the same. And we had wonderful manifestations. Sonia said she saw 9 birds fly over. I don't know. They had happy hour at their hotel, so I don't know. see like that. There's tears.
only sees me.
That was great, BJ. Thank you. I was telling him on the beach, I said, what's really cool, BJ's a professional photographer. That's what he does. I said, but what you add a dimension that I wouldn't have if I just hired somebody. I said, first of all, the thing about the pictures is important because it captures a moment, and somehow the energy of that moment stays in that photograph. So you're able to relive it again and again. So it's really, it's important. It's just, I don't know, it really matters to me. And I said, the thing is you know me so well, you capture the shots that I would be interested in. I've hired photographers before, and I've looked at it and thought, I should have had a conversation with them before. I remember, I don't know if any of y'all were even there, but we did my 50th birthday at the Egyptian Ballroom at the Fox Theater, and I had all the care pastors. If I had known, y'all are still, I think y'all are the only ones, you were there. If I had known a couple of years later, most of those people were going to be leaving, I wouldn't have spent quite that much money on it. But anyway, somebody had hired Mark Eskew to do an Elvis. That was not, it was fine, but it wasn't anything I requested. Well, apparently the photographer was super enamored with Mark because I think there's like 2 pictures of me and 47 pictures of Elvis. And I thought, we should have communicated this. This is yeah, birthday boy right here. Hello. But anyway, not that he doubts it, but BJ and I both know that was a Kairos moment we met a few years ago. And so I always appreciate that he captures these wonderful times that we have at Metron. That was really cool. And I hope many of you will come to number 20. Are we ready? Yes. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Yes. I've scheduled Chelsea Shag. I knew there was something else. Thank you. Chelsea Shag's going to be back September the 10th. She's going to be doing a sound bath. So she's real excited about that. And thank you for reminding me of that. And so looking forward to having her. If you didn't get a chance to experience that before, it's really very cool what she does. And she's a great musician, but I love that she's kind of in this mode right now, and it definitely works with our flow. So thanks for reminding me of that, Michelle. Charles, I think I'm going to skip the meditation today, but we're just going to get right into it. If there is a Charles, if Charles can hear me, give ear to my words, oh Charles.
Pray harder.
You know what it reminds me of? I don't know if any of you ever watched the Kelly Clarkson show, but she has a segment where she plays a game with whoever her host is, and the referee is supposedly God. I can't believe she doesn't get hate mail for this with her crowd, but God referee. So that you never see him. There's just a voice that explains the rules and stuff, and that's kind of what I feel like with Charles. If we're ready for the podcast, Charles, we shall proceed. Welcome to the Metron Live podcast, coming to you from Metron, brought to you courtesy of the rock god of podcasting, Charles McFall. Metron people, would you please welcome the podcast people? Hello, people. Podcast people. I feel like we're speaking to another planet. People of Podcastia, we come to you in peace. Thanks for the great feedback from our last series we finished up. I did, some of you all remember John Wanza. I did his interview show last night. They're into their 3rd year doing this podcast. He and it's apparently pronounced Dylan. I've called him Dylan for all these years. Anyway, and it was about miracles. And so it was definitely fresh in my mind because I had just talked about miracles. And yesterday was the 4th anniversary of when we went tubing in North Carolina, and I lost everything. What's interesting about, and got it all back, and I told that last night, because somebody on the show asked me, they said, can you give me an example? Yeah, that. Can you give me an example of miracles? And I said, well, this is the 4th anniversary of this happening. And what was cool is Howie called me, and he said that Jerry took his, I don't know how old his grandson is. He's probably pre-K, I guess. Took him swimming at this spring they have there in Central Florida. And while they were there, Jerry lost his phone. And the little boy got really upset about it. He was like, what are we going to do, and how much did that cost? And he said that because he was there the day that I called my stuff back and got it, and it really was very impactful for him. And he said, we're going to get it back, but it's okay if we don't. I mean, it's like everything's fine. And when they got to when they were checking out of the place, he asked the lady at the booth or whatever, did anybody turn in a phone? And she said, can you describe it? And he described it to her. She said, here it is. And so it was very impactful for his grandson to see that. And he doesn't know if they lost it in the water or whatever, but it definitely was brought back. And his words were, if I hadn't seen that day, I wouldn't have known how to handle this. And really, the series I'm doing this month kind of builds on that, because what I was telling him, I said, what's really important in that case is your attitude. It's like my first book was written about this, but like when Jairus comes to Jesus and he says, my little girl is sick, and Jesus says, yeah, I'll come heal her. And as they're en route to the house, one of Jairus' servants comes and says, don't trouble the master anymore, your little girl is dead. And Jesus preempts anything that Jairus is going to say, and he says, be not afraid, only believe. And what I see in that is a lot of times a situation that's evolving it's neither a good or a bad thing. It's like, it's what quantum physics tells us about the observer effect. It's how you see a thing that determines how it's going to collapse into your reality. And when Jesus says to Jairus, don't say anything, just believe, what I see that he's saying in there is, if you freak out about this, it's going to be a different scenario. Your attitude will determine it will create a very negative space around this. If you'll just keep it in neutral, I can do something here. And so I was telling him, I said that it was a really teachable moment for him as a grandfather to show by example to his grandson that, a lot of the drama that we have in our life is because we panic and overreact to stuff. That if we would just, honestly, that's one reason I love meditation so much, because I really think serenity is a superpower. And a lot of times when you have a situation, if you'll just, before you react and before you create drama, just stop. And if nothing else, if you can't walk in faith, then at least walk in stillness. At least say, it is well. I'm not going to say any more about it, because I really do believe we muddy the waters on a lot of our own manifestation. So what I'm going to talk about this month is this is the next progressive state. Those of you that were on Tybee this weekend already heard me talk about some of these things, but I'm telling you, with every conversation I have nearly, I think, everybody, I need to keep saying this word, because everybody, not so much with y'all, because Metron people are pretty chill, but I've got 5,000 people just on my main page, and I'm pastoring them constantly, and it's amazing how people stay in crisis mode, just on so many things, and you want to say to them, I think is the word exacerbating? I think you're making the situation worse, because you keep talking about it and counseling about it and complaining about it. And, it was interesting because some of us went out to eat Friday night on Tybee, and I think I was talking to y'all, and I used the analogy of planting a seed and pulling it up. And John Huey said the next day he actually did that when he was a young man. He said, I planted a garden and I kept going out and pulling the seeds up to see if they were growing. And he said, I killed them, because at a certain point you have to commit a thing to the soil and say, I'm going to trust the process of nature to do what it's got to do, and it might not happen in my time frame. So let me show you the title of this series this month is Manifest the Best. Stop believing everything you think and learn to trust the process. Stop believing everything you think and learn to trust the process. I want to use this scripture. I've used it before, but I want to give you a little bit of backstory on this scripture. This is out of Job chapter 22, and it's where if you ever hear the phrase "decree a thing and it shall be established unto you," that's the way it's stated in the King James version. Here's the way. This is Job 22, verse 26 through 30 in the Message Bible. It says, "You'll take delight in God, the Mighty One, and look to Him joyfully, boldly. You'll pray to Him, and He'll listen." And look what He says here. He'll help you do what you've promised. It's not just Him watching over His word to perform it. It's Him watching over your word to perform it. You'll decide what you want, and it will happen. Your life will be bathed in light. To those who feel low, you'll say, chin up, be brave, and God will save them. Yes, even the guilty will escape through God's grace in your life. Let me give you a little backstory on this. Full disclosure, Job had these three friends who came to him, and the bulk of the book of Job is the conversations between these three friends trying to help him make sense of what's happening in his life, okay? And let me just stop right there and say, be careful who you surround yourself with. Because, yes, there is safety in the multitude of counselors, but there's also a lot of drama in the multitude of counselors. And there's sometimes when too many people know your business, you can get too much static on the signal. Too many people telling you what they would do in that case. And at a certain point, it becomes confusing, and you can't even find, because we're all impressionable. At a certain point, you can't even find what you want because there's so many voices on the line. I try to, if there's something that I'm really working through, there's only 2, maybe 3 people that I'll even bounce it off of, because I tell too many people what's going on. And like in the past, when I've ever posted something online about some issue I was going through, some of the people who would offer advice, I would read what they would write, and I think, man, you are so not on the same frequency with me. That's like, first of all, you don't even understand what I'm talking about. That's not even what the issue is here, because everybody's seeing the world through their paradigm. And you feel like, well, if I just talk to enough people, eventually I'll get the answer. No, you won't. You're going to get a lot of confusion. The word din, D-I-N, it means just like too much noise, a cacophony. Like, I like to watch The View until everybody starts talking over each other. And one day this week, it was actually a rerun, and I was watching it because it was one that I'd missed. And when they got in some argument, which I respect, that's the whole point of it, is that everybody gives their viewpoint. But when they're all talking over each other, I'm like, I'm changing the channel. I can't understand what any of y'all are saying. And I've got closed caption on. Closed caption can't even keep up with y'all because it's too much stuff. There's another word I'm giving you. Come on in. I'm giving you the words for the day. I think it's the word cacophony, and it just means when there's just so much noise that you can't hear anything. So sometimes when you're going through something, you need to take a little cue from Mary. It says she pondered all these things in her heart. And it's okay to, like I know in my own case, there's people who know me well enough that I can say to them, I'm in the heart of the earth. I'll be back. I'm prophesying my resurrection. Just, everything's fine. Everything will be fine. That's my way of saying, I'm going through some stuff. I don't really want to talk about it because talking about it's not going to make it any better. And I know you're going to, if I tell you what's going on, you're going to feel compelled to, give me your 2 cents. And that might not be kind of where I'm at on it. So, having said that, this is part of, when he says this, this is part of, I think it's Eliphaz. I believe that's one of Job's friends. This is part of what he says to Job. The reason I'm including it as the word of the Lord is Job's got 41 chapters, somewhere in there. I think it's 41. Maybe it's 40. But the final chapters are the Creator sort of verbally sparring with Job, saying, if you think you know so much, why don't you, he says things like, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? And he says all these things. But in that context, he also says, deck yourself with majesty and declare unto me, and I will show you that your own right hand can save you. Did you ever say to your kids, don't make me come up there, or don't make me pull this car over? It's a verbal clue that says, don't make me get in mode where I'm going to have to start hitting people. I think about I have a first cousin who I've not seen in years, but I always think about this because she had 3 sons, and they were a handful. And one day, years ago, when the boys were all little, she had a babysitter, and she was driving the babysitter home. And the babysitter was in the back seat with the 3 boys. And she was driving the car. I do not advise this. Don't shoot the messenger. She's driving the car, and the boys are fighting, and she's yelling at them and saying, y'all have got to shut up. Don't make me pull this car over. And so while she's driving, she takes her shoe off and just starts hitting people in the back seat. And suddenly everybody got really, really quiet. And she looked back and she was hitting the babysitter. And the little babysitter was freaking out. She was like, oh my God, I'm not trying to hit you. I'm sorry. I was aiming for these idiots. And, I mean, you'd have to have known my cousin. We got many good laughs out of that. But when you say, don't make me do such and such, it's a verbal cue to say, I don't want to have to, don't make me be the bad guy. It's an invitation to mercy. It's kind of like when God speaks to Moses and he says, I'm so furious with the Israelites. He says, I'm going to wipe them out. And then he says, leave me alone that my wrath may wax hot against them. So it's kind of like 2 guys getting in a fight, and one guy says to his buddy, hold me back, because it's your way of saying, I really don't want to fight this guy. So if you'll pin my arms, we can have maybe a better outcome to this situation. And I'm saying all that to say, yes, Eliphaz said this, but it's God saying this. Do you understand? It's God saying, Job, who do you think you are? But at the same time saying, you have the ability to change this situation. When he put that video together, he used the song, What If God Was One of Us? God is one of us. I mean, when Jesus came, it was the Word made flesh. And then Jesus said, it's necessary that I go away so that you can become the Word made flesh. So if you can go back, with that in mind, go back to the first part of this, Michelle. And again, he says, you'll pray to him and he'll listen. He'll help you do what you've promised. I think too many people have wasted too much time saying, I just don't know what God's up to, but God's got a plan, and eventually God's going to tell me. Some people have been waiting for 30 years for God to reveal this plan. The meter's running. You're not getting any younger. At some point, you might just need to say, you know what, I don't know if this is God's plan or not, but I don't know how much time I got left, so this is what I'm doing. And I really think like, I can't say that I heard some voice when I was a young man that says, go to Conyers, Georgia, and start a church. That's just because of a series of reasons, that's what I decided to do. But I believe that was the plan of God for my life. But it was decisions that I made. Do you understand? And at a certain point, you have to trust your own divinity enough to know, I'm going to decide this. And if I'm going to include a higher power, then I'll say this. This is the direction I'm going in. If this is a mistake, put a red light up and stop me, and I'll go another direction. But otherwise, if I don't hear a no, I'm going to assume that's a yes. And in most cases, I believe it is God saying, yes, just do it. Just make a decision, get a plan, and I'll bless it. Too many people sitting around the throne saying, Lord, if you'll just bless me, just do something. Over the years, when I was younger, I was way too abrasive, and I probably hurt a lot of people when I would say this, but I just believe it was the truth. I spent so many years of people coming to my office saying, I believe I'm called to a ministry. What do you think? And I would say, well, what are you doing now? Well, nothing. I'm waiting for God to tell me what to do. And I would say, I don't think you're called to a ministry, because if you're called to ministry, you just do it. You don't. I understand getting feedback and everything, but if you really feel that strongly about it, you would just do it. Like when I was in 8th grade, and it's back what we called the baptism of the Holy Spirit. I received that on February 14th. On February 15th, I went to my homeroom and stood up on my desk and started preaching. I had 25 converts my first day. I didn't have to counsel with anybody about that. In fact, when I told my parents about it, they were concerned. They were like, we don't want you to be that aggressive. And I'm like, y'all are turned over to a reprobate mind. Y'all don't even know. I won't bounce anything off to y'all again. And, they just want me to go to school. Like, it's cute, but you need to learn some stuff. But I was called to do it. The people who are really, if you're really called to do something, you're probably already doing it and don't even realize it. I know back when we had care pastors at Church in the Now, and sometimes I would go to somebody and say, I'd like you to pray about becoming a care pastor. And sometimes people would be so surprised. They'd be like, really? Why me? And I'd say, well, I'm surprised you don't see that already. Because pastoring isn't preaching. Preaching's a different thing. Pastoring is shepherding people. And there are people who are excellent shepherds who are never going to stand up in a pulpit and preach. They're completely different things. And, the reason I would pick certain people out is I could tell these people are they're influential, and they have kind of natural caretaker abilities, and they're kind of already doing it. When somebody would say to me, hey, I visited so-and-so in the hospital, I would make a mental note of it. And I think, okay, they know where the hospital is. Good to know. Because there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes with hospital visitation that if you haven't done it, it's a little daunting. That's why I would try to do this with them. I try to walk them through, like, when you go to the hospital, do this, you need to look for this, and kind of explain to them, because they ended up doing weddings and funerals and all that kind of stuff. I had one pastor was calling me from the funeral home, saying, I'm doing a funeral. What do I do? And I said, find the funeral director. They'll walk you through everything. They'll tell you everything. But mainly all they want to know is what you're going to start with and what you're going to end with. So give them a cue. If you're going to end with a scripture, then tell them what that is. I said, are they burying or cremating? They're burying. All right, same thing. Just all you have to remember is stay with the body. Like, just you sort of escort the casket, and all you have to do is just remember that. And when you stay, when they take the casket out of the hearse, you stand there. Your job is to sort of shepherd the person who has passed on. And that's why when you'll notice when you get to the graveside, they'll say the head's right here. You need to know what that means as you stand at the head where the person's being buried, not the foot of them. And this person called me later. He said, oh my God, it was like they went right down the list. It was like everything you said to me, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly. If I hadn't called you, I would have had no idea. I said, well, you already innately kind of know how to do this. There's just some tweaking of some things. I remember when I was in college, I was in a pastoral class where we had to go. There was a huge Assembly of God there, and we had to go learn how to baptize. So it was a bunch, probably 40 ministry students. We go, they fill up a tank, and we all baptized each other. And we're all coming out soaking wet, and there was a lady who was there for a morning Bible study, and she said, what are y'all doing? I said, well, we all just got baptized. And she was like, oh, what a revival. Like, she was so excited. She said, all these 40 young men all getting, and she was so happy about it. We didn't want to tell her, no, it's a class project. But, okay, we just like, I know, there's going to be a revival in the land. You know, like, just, I didn't want rain or parade. But what I love about this, he says, you'll decide what you want and it will happen. Can I tell you that that's a bit of a self-esteem issue? There are people who have gone through their whole life afraid to ask for what they want because of their own sense of unworthiness. And it could come from a lot of places. It can come from religion. It can come from your upbringing. Sometimes when you're raised in a big family and you know, you just learn how to navigate with sibling rivalry and stuff, and made to feel like your desires don't matter. I love when Jesus said, ask in my name that your joy may be full. I love that because he doesn't say ask for things that will be a part of my purpose in the earth. He says, no, do you want it? Well, then ask for it. You know, when I was raised in old school Pentecostalism, I used to hear people say, well, you just can't pray for anything you want and get it. And when I progressed a little bit, I would think, well, why not? Why can't I pray for what I want? If Jesus says, ask for what you want that your joy may be full, I mean, I have 4 kids. I don't want to, when they were growing up, I don't want to be monsters about making unreasonable demands. But if there's a certain brand of something that, you know, if I'm buying it for them anyway and this is what they want, sure, why not? And so I want you to remember that, because I'm going to come back to this during the month. You'll decide what you want and it will happen. Your path will be bathed in light. The next scripture I want to show you is one I refer to a lot. It's Matthew 5:37 in the English Standard Version. It's just simply, he says, let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. Let me tell you why this is important. I truly believe, and I know I've already talked about this last weekend on the beach. Let me reiterate because you need to hear it. If you'll just get clarity about what you want and speak it out of your mouth and then let it go and don't micromanage it, like put your seed in the ground and leave it alone. You can water it and, you know, make sure that it's the growth is everything's conducive to growth. But I'm telling you, most of the drama that people have in their life is they either don't trust God, they don't trust their instincts enough, they don't trust that what they want matters, and so they say this is what they want, but they keep talking about stuff, and whether it's God or the universe or whatever is saying to you, make up your mind what you want, because you put this thing into motion and things were already moving in that direction, and now you say you want this. So which is it? And that's why Jesus says, just say yes or no. Do you want this? Do you not want it? And what's so interesting, he says, anything more than this comes from evil. Evil. Meaning that confusion about what you want comes from evil. I remember when I took driver's training when I was a kid, I remember the guy who was teaching me, he said, the most dangerous thing you can ever do, especially on expressway, is indecision. If you're going to go, go. If you're going to change lanes, change lanes. Like, it's that not being sure about what you're going to do. That's what creates destruction. And I honestly think it was a life lesson. Because when you don't learn how to just say yes or no to things, yes, this works for me, no, this doesn't work for me. And it's all that weird in-between place where you're trying to figure stuff out and justify it and micromanage it and overthink it. That's where all the confusion comes in. I guarantee you the majority of what people have thought was spiritual warfare was just their own indecision, their own indecisiveness. There's no demons fighting you. You just can't make up your mind. And because the thing didn't work out exactly like you wanted it to work out in the time frame that you had, you're assuming the worst. And at some point you have to say, I don't know how this thing's going to work out, but it's everything's going to move toward my favor. Which brings me to the third thing. I love this Eckhart Tolle quote. He says, the pain that you create now is always some form of non-acceptance, some form of unconscious resistance to what is. On the level of thought, the resistance is some form of judgment. On the emotional level, it is some form of negativity. The intensity of the pain depends on the degree of resistance to the present moment, and this in turn depends on how strongly you are identified with your mind. The mind always seeks to deny the now and to escape from it. In other words, the more you are identified with your mind, the more you suffer. Or you may put it like this: the more you are able to honor and accept the now, the more you are free of pain, of suffering, and free of the egoic mind. Why does the mind habitually deny or resist the now? Because it cannot function and remain in control without time, which is past and future. So it perceives the timeless now as threatening. Time and mind are, in fact, inseparable. Can I put that in biblical words? Casting all your care upon him because he cares for you. That's basically another way of saying that. Saying that once you have said your thing, once you have made your decree, once you have decided what you want to happen, then you have to leave it alone and stop running around wondering why it's not happening. It's like you keep, if you do that, you keep putting it out there and canceling it out. As soon as you put it out there, you put positive energy out, then you cancel it out. Totally double mind. Double mind. James says a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. And so what happens is you create this environment of instability, and that's what, if there are evil forces out there, that's what evil preys on. It makes you feel vulnerable. It makes you feel like even, I know it's a small thing. Let me explain something to you about finding that 19th Street access point. I don't doubt for a minute that I'm in the flow when we do these meditation weekends and when I decide. You have to know, it's kind of a big deal for me just to say, let's go to blah, blah, blah. And 30, 40, 50, 60 people take time off from work, spend money for traveling and hotel. It's kind of a big deal. And so I feel the responsibility of it, and I want to make sure when I choose a place that it's the right place and that you're going to have a good time, and it's, if you want to create a vacation out of it, that's awesome. And Eddie brought a whole group of his family, and they were adorable, and I loved your daughter's feedback on it. The things she posted on TikTok was very, very cool. She bought that painting I did with my right hand. I got to finish it, but I'm going to get it to her this week. But I want that to be great for all of you. And it's not that I doubted Tybee Island, but I wasn't that sure of it, because I didn't like it that much. You know, I love Jekyll and St. Simon's Type. He's like, it's okay. But I kept feeling like, no, let's do that. At least once, let's go there. And just, it's a small thing. Small synchronicities mean a lot to me. And when I found that space, and it was on the 19th Street access for our 19th one, you may say, Bishop, I think you're reading too much into it. No, what I read into it is, you're in the zone. You pick the right places. You know what you're doing. And nobody's complaining about it. Nobody's saying, you know, we're not going to go to another one of these cockamamie things. We're tired of going all over. We got people. I just posted a thing yesterday. There's already 13 people signed up. John Brock wrote me. He said, we already got our room locked in. We're bringing another couple with us. I'm like, man, y'all do not play. They go to an Assembly of God church in Columbus, Georgia, that doesn't really do a lot of meditating, if you know what I mean. It's not really their jam. And they've been to 10 of them, I think. And that's really cool. Again, it's not like I was doubting it, but there's just like, I was pretty sure that was the right thing. And then when I told Ken, I said, 18th Street is good, but I swear if I drive down this street and there's a 19th Street, and there's no other, I mean, there's not a 20th Street. And, you know, that 19th is the end of the island, which I'd never driven down. I'm feeling the anointing. I'd never driven down that far. And I said, 18th is going to be fine, but I swear to God, if I drive down Butler Street and there's a 19th Street access, and when I drove up and I saw all those parking spaces and, you know, it was a quiet place on the beach, I was like, chill me, I don't know the Holy Ghost. I mean, it was just, and you have things like that in your own life. Like, I don't base everything on signs, but I know if there's a way I visualized a particular thing going, if there'll be just any movement toward that thing happening, then I interpret it as, okay, I would call it a miracle, but it's miracle-ish. It's miracle adjacent. It seems like a small thing, and I can't tell this to everybody because some people trivialize this kind of thing. But, you know, last year when I had Reba down for my birthday, that was real important to me. Like, that was really cool because I'd always wanted to have her, and it happened on my birthday. And I called Howie, and he had never met her, and it had been a life dream of his. He's a bigger fan of the Rambos than I was. And so I thought, well, there's a lot of components, a lot of working parts to this weekend, but I hope this will work out. And remember, I couldn't get in touch with her, and so I really want her to come on April 3rd, but I don't know. And it's a small thing, but there was something I wanted to wear, and so there's a pair of shoes that I ordered online. And they came in early. I ordered them, and they were like, I couldn't believe how quick they came. Now you say, come on now. That's just Amazon.com. No, what I saw when I opened it up, I thought, I can't believe these shoes came so quick. Oh, this weekend's going to be exactly like I visualized. And it was, down to the smallest detail. Now, how did you get that from a pair of shoes? Because that's what I wanted that weekend to look like. And when I saw that, to me, it wouldn't have been, if they hadn't come in, I wouldn't have canceled the weekend. I mean, it wouldn't have been the end of everything. It was just like, oh, I'm going to get exactly what I want. And quite frankly, it exceeded expectations. It was something for me that was personally important. And I can't tell you how many times we've talked since then, and I've said, Howie, can you believe the way that worked out? I mean, you were in between cruises, and it just happened that she finally came down, and we worked it out. And even little things like, he called me and he said, I don't know anything about Atlanta, but this is the hotel that I got. And I said, it's a block from my house. That'll work. And it was just little things like that. You say, well, are those miracles? Yes. That's why you're not getting miracles in your life, because you don't notice little things. The more you see miracles, the more you see miracles. Okay? And what I like about this is part of saying what you want to happen is not being in denial of what is. I hope you get this. You don't get a miracle because you need a miracle. You get a miracle because you notice miracles, and miracles are a lifestyle. If this is what your soul sounds like, hey, give me a miracle. I need a miracle. Oh my God. Don't you see how bad everything is? You're not getting, all you're going to get is you're going to be absorbed in a vortex. I hope y'all enjoyed that. That hurt my throat. You're going to be, would you open that? You're going to be absorbed in a vortex of self-pity when you do that. And ain't no miracles coming. If you say, thank you. If you say, oh my God, miracles are everywhere. My life is a miracle. Even last night, this show I did with Wanza, he had several people on. It was kind of like a Zoom thing. And I told my thing about getting my stuff back from the river. The other people who were on told about miracles of life-threatening things, like somebody's heart stopping or having a stroke or all kind of like really serious stuff. And he asked me he said, can you conclude what all we've talked about? And I said, well, what I hear, all of you who are on here had these things that, like a couple of guys actually died for a little while. And I said, doesn't it make you appreciate every morning that you wake up, you're like, oh my God, I woke up again. It feels like a miracle, and which they all agreed to. And I said, the thing is, you move from manifesting miracles to realizing that you are a miracle. The very fact, I have to say, even this little journey I've been on with my heart this year, which I'm believing every time. This morning I was I got these Super Beats chewables that are for blood pressure, and every time I take it, I'm like, the aneurysm is shrinking. That's my. I fully expect when I go back, and he'll be like, where the heck did it go? But the good news is, when I first heard about it, it was so scary. And like I told you, what scared me the most was the words of my own mouth. Because I've said to my kids 5,000 times, I don't want to go with a long, drawn-out thing. And so I'm like, oh, crap, I've spoken into existence the quickest way to make an exit. At least with a heart attack, you got time to call 911. People survive heart attacks all the time. Not an aneurysm. It's like, you're going, it's like, holy, like, there's not time to text my kids or anything. Like, nope. I'm like, okay, universe, God, angels, ancestors, anybody that's out there. I didn't mean quite that fast. No, I don't want years being bedfast somewhere, but I'd like a few minutes. That's what scared me, huh? A few hours. That's what scared me. I thought, great. I've snared myself with my own words. I've spoken into existence the quickest possible exit. I was telling Ken's ex-boss's wife was in town not long after I got that diagnosis, and she texted me from the airport, you want to get together, and I picked her up, and we had lunch. And so I was telling her about it, and she said, are you gonna like drop in the middle of this lunch? Because you're kind of freaking me out. I said, I hope not. I'm pretty sure I can make it to the end of lunch, but I don't know. But here's my point. The good news is, every morning since then when I wake up, I'm like, yay! I woke up. And when you have that attitude, not that I think I'm about to go, I'm going to live out my time, but when that becomes the template of your day, when you wake up saying, I did it again. I woke up again. Amazingly, I woke up again. And it automatically sets the tone for miracles because everything becomes miraculous. There's nothing like a near-death experience to really make you appreciate life. You know? I mean, just the other last week, I think I told y'all this, but I went over here on Ponce de Leon. I went to Great Clips and got a haircut. It's in a parking lot. Across the driveway is a Starbucks. So I walk out of the hair place, and I'm walking over to get coffee, as I have done a bazillion times. Nobody has ever not stopped at the stop sign there. It's not even a road. It's the driveway in the parking lot. And it's 2 lanes. And so I'm looking at my phone, and I'm stepping across, as I've done a bazillion times. And I don't know how in the world this guy got up this much speed, but he completely ran the red light and zoomed by me. I mean, I don't know that it would have killed me, but we would have canceled meditation weekend for sure. And I mean, it came from out of nowhere. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, good Lord, really? Are you running from the cops? And I just sat there drinking my coffee thinking, what would have just happened? Like what if he had just hit, like, I mean, it really kind of shook me up a little bit. I did it again yesterday. I didn't get a haircut, but I was over there again yesterday. And let me tell you, when I crossed that place, I stopped. Y'all all stopping. Everybody stopping. Okay, because I'm now walking. It made me, and it may save my life at some point. Because there's nothing like missing a car by about that much to say, dude, put your phone down and pay attention to where you're walking. I'm going to show you this. This is also, this is a Deepak Chopra quote. This may be the best thing I'm going to show you all day. I appreciate everything I've said for the last few minutes. But basically, I can boil down this, and I don't want you not to come back. You can say, well, I'm not coming back the rest of the month because he said this was it. Let me tell you, can I just tell you why I like for you to actually show up? Because you're influential. And when you don't show up, other people say, well, if he's not showing up, I don't have to show up. Like Jude and I have had this conversation many times because he always posts on Facebook about his service the next day. And he said, I hate when somebody writes on there, we're not going to be able to make it tomorrow because it automatically influences other people. And I said, anybody says that to me, I delete it immediately. I'm like, I bind you, devil, in Jesus' name. Like, don't put that out there because what you're saying is, oh, y'all stay home because I'm not going to make it. Just we don't need to know that. What I love is when people say, we're going to be there early. I can't wait to hear because where else would we go? You have the words of life. I'm like, you're my favorite person ever on social media. And it's because we influence other people. That's why. Because there's a nano, I mean, I can't deny, I didn't feel it for a second this morning when I'm, sitting there drinking my coffee and thinking, I need to get ready. I get it. There's for a nanosecond that you think, maybe I'll just sit this one out. Well, I got Well, and it's not that you don't love everybody, but it's like, I just got ready and did hair and makeup just a few hours ago for this podcast thing. I got to do it again. Because I don't know about you, but mine has to start all over the next day. Like I can't carry it over the next day. It's like, I don't know what I do during the night. But when I look at the mirror in the morning, I'm like, dude, you got to start all over again. Yeah. See? Uh, you just moved to, you just moved in. Heather pulls into the lead. Come on, Jesus. No, but that's exactly my point. And if there was any time that you could have said, it's too late, I'm not going to make it. Exactly. And once I get here, I'm so glad. Of course I'm glad. I mean, but truth be told, nobody wants to be anywhere. I mean, at a certain point, you're like, do I really have to? I mean, I get all of that. I'm just saying. All right. So what I'm going to show you does not give you permission to sit the rest of this series out. But this succinctly captures exactly everything I'm talking about. Please, you show it. When you force solutions on problems, you only create new problems. And the blessing will be on the decision. The problem is the indecisiveness. And when I read this, I thought, oh, that's it. When you force solutions on problems, you only create new problems. That's all that happens. You think, well, I'm worrying about it because I'm being mature. No, you're creating more drama. You're creating the drama that you're going to have to walk out. I'm telling you, people, I know life has got challenges. I'm very aware of suffering in the world and, negative things that there's no point in us even bringing up today because, of course, they're real. I'm not saying none of that stuff's real. What I am saying is the natural state of things, you're not supposed to just live in chaos all the time. That's not what you're, and you may have to curate a life to produce that thing. But if you have a lot of chaos, first of all, you have to realize these are things that are coming from decisions that I've made. These are choices that I've made. And I have to accept them. Like, I did this, so how am I going to work myself out of it? Because I don't want to live like this anymore. You're not supposed to just live in high drama all the time. You're supposed to be able to relax and enjoy life. And Jesus said, I came to give you life and that more abundantly. It's not supposed to be this, like I remember when I was a kid, I don't know if y'all did this in your church, but in the Pentecostal church growing up, on Wednesday night, people would stand up and they give their testimonies. And nearly everybody would, I remember even as a kid, I would hear people say, y'all, the devil's been after me all week. And then they would start telling you all the horrors that had happened. And it's like a Satan worshiping service. Because wow, to thee we ascribe glory. I mean, nobody has said Jesus. I haven't heard of Jesus out of any of y'all. But y'all are all up in the devil. Can I tell you something? The devil is you. You're your own devil. You're bedeviling yourself. Your thoughts are your devils. Sister Sawyer's feeling it. BJ, have you got your church hat in the car? Because Sonia's going to need it. BJ keeps it in case he needs to run the aisles. All right, let me finish this up. And here's one more Chopra quote. He says, the law of detachment says that in order to acquire anything in the physical universe, you have to relinquish your attachment to it. This doesn't mean that you give up the intention to create your desire. You don't give up the intention. You don't give up the desire. you give up your attachment to the result. The moment you relinquish your attachment to the result, combining one pointed intention with detachment at the same time, you will have that which you desire. That's why, good, and that's why, if you will indulge me to mention it for the bazillionth and one time, 4 years ago, when I lost all my stuff on the river, what I said to the guys, because we had to, the sun's going down. We've got to leave. I just can't stand on this riverbank all day long and hope something floats up. Especially when the park ranger says, you're not ever going to find your stuff again. She said, when stuff goes under this water, it disintegrates. And so I said, all right, we're fine. We had already had lunch and had a beautiful day, and I thought, I don't want to. Everybody's having this great time. I don't want to make this all about my issue. So we were fine. I didn't freak out or anything. But as we were getting in the car, I said, I'm going to say this one time. This is not the end of the world. And Ken's already said he could take off tomorrow because if I don't get my stuff, I got to start the whole process. I've got to go to the DMV. I've got to get a driver's license. I've got to cancel credit cards. I've got to, all this stuff. And if that's what I've got to do tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. Fine. I just need to say that somehow, before midnight tonight, I'm going to get all my stuff back and everything's going to be working. I'm just going to say that one time. And fortunately, I'm with people who didn't laugh at me and say, what are you talking about? Really? And as the story, as that evening, it was 10 till 12 as we're driving into the parking lot, deck of my loft. I said, Ken, I would like you to notice it's 10 till 12. I have everything that I lost in the river. Everything's working. My phone works. My Apple Watch works. The ink on the check didn't run. And this stuff had been under the water for 3 hours. So the point is it's like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego saying, we believe God will deliver us from this furnace, but if he doesn't, we're going to be okay. It's that addendum that says, I am totally believing this is going to happen. If it doesn't happen, I am totally going to be fine. And that's where the detachment comes in. It's in your sense of desperation that you lose the manifestation. When you start getting desperate, and we've all been there before, but when you start feeling desperate and your prayers of desperation, there's a place for desperate prayers, but a little bit of that goes a long way. You can wear that stuff out. At a certain point, you have to say, I don't know how this thing's going to work out, but it's going to work out in my favor. And I'm just going to believe. If you want to say, if God be for me, who can be against me, that's fine. I'm more inclined to say, I go through every day believing that everything in the universe is rigged in my favor. I just believe everything is working. It's just working for me. That doesn't take anything away from you. I want you to feel the same way about you. But in my journey, it's all working in my favor. Okay? Totally. Totally. Well, that's why even in Psalm 112, he says, the man whose heart is established is not afraid of evil tidings. Because you read the whole thing, he says he's sown seed, he's given, he knows where he's made investments, and that's why he's not worried about it. Because it's like, well, I'm good, I've taken care of all my business. I'm telling you, this is going to be a great series. It's going to be better, even better next week. This is from Mark in the Now, available at jimswooleybooks.com and on Amazon.com. I have a large inventory. This is Mark 11:24. This is why I am telling you, whatever you ask for in prayer, whatever you decree, believe. Accept the reality that it exists in another unseen dimension simply because you say it. Don't suspend or delay belief until you see it manifested in the physical realm, because what is unseen is more real than what is seen. Be confident that your request is granted to you and you will get it. Your own irresistible faith will attract it to you. And then let me finish up with, I love Louise Hay. She was great. transitioned 2 or 3 years ago now. But she lived a good, long life, and she was amazing, if you ever get a chance to read her story. But I love that she says, I don't fix problems, I fix my thinking, then problems fix themselves. That's why if you can't stop worrying about it, then change the scenery. Just say, I can't sit in this chair and think about this thing anymore. I've got to go do something else. I've got to go look at something else. I've got to have a change of scenery. I've got to, I've had experiences in my life where I was in not a financial crisis, but I was, having a little bit of trouble with abundance. And sometimes I would make myself buy something or go out to eat or do something that just went against that vibe. Like, I don't like the way I'm feeling. I'm feeling too much lack. I need to go do something to sort of change this energy. If there is such a thing, I used to teach this, if there is such a thing as familiar spirits, then what you should do is the unfamiliar. Like, do something that will sort of shock the demon, if you will. But I love this, like, instead of micromanaging the problems, because I'm laying on your bed and ruminating about it. What's going to happen if this happens? What's going to happen if that happens? All it does is it makes a bad situation worse. It not only doesn't fix it, it makes it worse. Exactly. It's what they call, in politics, they call unforced errors. Like, sometimes you'll see a politician just shoot themselves in the foot and think, well, you just totally did such a stupid thing. I mean, I've looked at some politicians do things that I think, you know what, you totally deserve that. You should have known better than to do that. But we do those things in our own life. Exactly. We get in our own way. So if you can't think positive about it, then just stop thinking about it. Like, change that energy and let this concept of he who began a good work in you will continue to perform it. Like, just say, all right, I don't know how. I think I said this to you already, but it's kind of the simplicity of changing the energy on this phrase. You can say, I don't know how this is going to work out. Or you can say, I do not know how this is going to work out. Meaning, I'm on the verge of an adventure. I got no clue how this is going to work. And it's the same words. But if you put it out there like, I don't know. I just don't know. Do you know? But if you say those same words, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I guarantee you it's going to be good because it's always good for me. And sometimes I go past the 11th hour. Sometimes Lazarus is in the grave for 4 days before Jesus finally shows up. And that late Jesus can work your nerves. Y'all know late Jesus, who shows up 4 days later when Lazarus' sister comes out and goes, yeah, that's great. That's great that you're here now. Now that everybody's eaten all the food and the flowers have died. If you'd been here when we asked you, my brother wouldn't have died, Jesus. It's cute that you've been out healing everybody else. But your best friend, remember? I mean, thanks for coming. Right. Yeah, dry that up, Jesus. Your tears, a little late for tears. We cried days ago. And what happens? Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. And what he said was exactly right. It was not a sickness unto death. He just left out the part that Lazarus actually was going to die. That's why if you miss a deadline on something, it doesn't matter. That's why there's scriptures like, one day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. Meaning this, deadlines, in the now, in eternity, deadlines don't matter. And so we have to change our thinking. And if we change our thinking, I'm telling you, I'm not saying you're not going to have problems. What I am saying is your problems are going to fix themselves if you'll just take your hands off it. I'll say this and then I'll close. This painting I did this week. I just wanted to see if I could do a painting with my right hand, which I did, and it's okay. I had several people wanting to buy it, and it sold. Oh yeah, there it is. And it was okay. I mean, there's a couple things I just had to use my left hand on because it was just too precise. And I paid a price for it because later I was like, oh, that hurt. But mostly right-handed. And it only confirmed to me that you are definitely left-handed. It definitely reconfirmed to me, like, you've got to be yourself. But it was cool, and I might even do another one just so I know that I could do it. But what I've noticed about paintings before, many of you have bought stuff from me, and you would have no idea some of the things I've been through with paintings. And I finally learned my lesson, but many times I have finished a painting, and I like it. I'm like, okay, that's cool, I like the way that looks. And I keep looking at it. And then I think, but you know what? It would really look good. And I'll add this thing that as soon as I do it, I'm like, oh, shoot. That doesn't look good. And then I try to fix that thing, and now I got a whole thing going on. I can't tell you how many times I've had to finally start over. I just had to go back to the store and buy another canvas. And the whole time I'm driving there, I'm like, to myself, if you could just keep your hands off it, leave it alone. But no, you just had to keep messing with it until you destroyed it. It was fine like it was. So now I've done that enough now that I've learned when it's basically finished, and there's a couple things I can do to tweak it, but when it's basically finished, I will actually say to myself, do not touch that painting again. Sometimes I'll even turn it backwards on the easel, like don't even look at it. Don't even look at it for 24 hours because you're going to keep staring at it thinking, I know it's good, but I can make it so much better. No, you couldn't. It was fine like it is. Leave it alone. Now, it's not the end of the world if you mess up a painting. What's bad is when you have a situation in your life that would have been just fine if you had just kept your hands off it and just let whatever was already happening, just let it happen. Back in the old church, they say, let go and let God. And there is such a truth to that. As much as I believe that we have divinity and we are co-creators and all that kind of stuff, after you have done your part, then put the brush down and say, okay, I've done all my stuff. Now whatever supernatural needs to be added to whatever super needs to be added to my natural will be the supernatural. All right? Put a comma there. Did you get anything out of this? I told y'all. Let's all stand. Play me an outro, if you would, please.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. You can give anytime using any smartphone. Text the amount you would like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit bishonthennow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into Metron.
If you have cash, just pay it forward. And I haven't been able to say this in a while. If you have a check, make it to JESM and give it to Pastor Danny. I'm so happy I could say that again. Because I don't want you to give it to anybody else. Even if you weren't planning on writing a check, just write one today so that you can hand him something. They have never missed. They always watch. But I told them last, because they were in Tybee, I said, I know, but I like y'all. I like when y'all are here. I like your energy. And so they were here today. This is going to be good. All right. I release miracles into your life. I speak good words over your thinking, that you know what to do and what not to do, what to say and what not to say. You know how to let a thing go. You have a sense of timing. You have awareness of miracles, and that indeed everything in the universe is rigged in your favor. You wake up tomorrow saying, this is the day the Lord has enabled me to make. I will rejoice and be glad in it. God bless you. Go in peace. I got mad love for you all.